The first time I heard my wife say she never loved me, I did not break a glass, raise my voice, or storm through the door. I just stood in the hallway at 11:38 on a Thursday night, holding a half-empty glass of water, listening to 14 years of marriage collapse in a voice I still recognized. Rachel was in the dining room, barefoot on the hardwood, one hand wrapped around her phone, laughing softly like she was sharing a private joke with the only person in the world who mattered. I had come downstairs because the house felt too quiet, the kind of quiet that does not mean peace, just waiting. The kitchen lights were off, but a thin gold line spilled from under the dining room door, cutting across the floor like a warning. Then I heard her say my name. Not Michael, the way she said it at Christmas parties or in front of neighbors. Not Mike, the way she used to say it when we were young and broke and eating frozen pizza on paper plates. She said it like a tired obligation. I never loved Michael, she whispered, and then she laughed again, smaller this time, colder. He was just the man who made life easy. My hand tightened around the glass, but I did not drop it. That surprised me. I always thought betrayal would make the body dramatic, that knees would buckle, that walls would tilt, that the heart would do something loud enough for the other person to hear. But shock is not loud. Shock is a room losing oxygen 1 inch at a time. I stood there in my own house, a white 2-story colonial outside Charlotte, with the mortgage paid, the gutters cleaned, the security system humming in the walls because I had installed it myself after a break-in on our street the year before. I knew every sensor, every camera angle, every motion trigger. I knew which windows had contact points and which rooms had audio backup for glass break detection. That was my work. Security systems. Invisible things that warned people before damage spread too far. I just never thought my own home would warn me about my marriage. Rachel kept talking. I heard another man's voice through the speaker, smooth and relaxed, like he had been in my life longer than I knew. Evan Brooks. I knew the name. Vice president of sales at Rachel's firm. Expensive watch, perfect teeth, the kind of man who shook your hand while measuring the room behind you. Married too. His wife's name was Olivia. Rachel had mentioned her once, maybe twice, always with that harmless smile people use when they are hiding something in plain sight. Evan said something I could not catch, and Rachel answered, "After the Henderson account closes, everything changes." Then came the sentence that turned pain into evidence. Olivia will never know. She trusts you even more than Michael trusts me. My phone vibrated in my pocket. One short pulse. I looked down, not because I wanted to, but because habit is stronger than heartbreak. A notification glowed on the screen from the home security app. Audio event saved. Dining room. 11:38 p.m. For a second, I just stared at those words. Audio event saved. It sounded so clean, so technical, so far away from the feeling opening in my chest. Behind the door, my wife was still laughing. In my hand, the glass of water had gone warm. And in my pocket sat the first honest thing our house had given me in years. I did not open the door. I did not confront her. I walked back upstairs quietly, one step at a time, like a man carrying something fragile and dangerous. That recording did not just end my marriage. It would make another woman smile. I reached the top of the stairs without remembering the climb. The hallway outside our bedroom was dark except for the small nightlight Rachel insisted on keeping near the linen closet, a soft blue glow that made the framed photos on the wall look like they belonged to another family. There we were in the Outer Banks, wind pulling at her hair, while I held a cooler in one hand and her sandals in the other. There we were at my sister's backyard barbecue, Rachel smiling under string lights while I stood behind her with my arms around her waist. There we were on the day we bought the house, both of us holding the keys in front of the sold sign like two people who believed a front door could keep the world out. I stood in front of those pictures and felt something colder than anger move through me. I was 42 years old, a systems security engineer, the kind of man people called when they wanted alarms to work, cameras to record, doors to lock, and problems to leave a trail. My life had been built around preventing surprises. At work, I designed layered protection for banks, medical offices, and private homes across North Carolina. Motion sensors, access logs, encrypted backups, every small piece feeding into one simple promise. If something went wrong, the truth would not disappear. At home, I had tried to be simpler than that. I believed marriage did not need passwords and audit trails. I believed trust was supposed to be the one system you did not have to monitor. That was the joke, I guess. Rachel used to love that about me. In the beginning, she called me steady like it was a compliment. She said I made her feel safe. She said I had the kind of hands that could fix anything, a loose cabinet hinge, a bad router, a car battery dying in a grocery store parking lot during a July thunderstorm. I was not flashy. I did not wear loud suits or chase attention at restaurants. I remembered oil changes, insurance renewals, her favorite coffee creamer, the way she hated cilantro, the way she needed 10 quiet minutes after work before she could talk like a human being again. I thought love was found in those details, not in speeches. I thought being dependable was a form of devotion. Maybe it was. Maybe I just gave it to someone who learned to mistake it for weakness. Downstairs, Rachel's voice had gone quiet. A chair scraped softly against the dining room floor. I heard her footsteps move toward the kitchen, then the faint sound of water running. Normal sounds. Married sounds. The kind of sounds that had filled our house for 14 years without asking permission. I went into the guest room instead of our bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. The comforter was stiff because nobody used that room except visitors at Thanksgiving. My phone felt heavy in my palm. I opened the security app, and there it was, a clean little file with a time stamp and a room label, as if my life had not just been split into before and after. I did not play it again. Not yet. I just stared at the screen until it dimmed, then woke it with my thumb. Somewhere below me, my wife was washing a glass, probably the same way she had done 1,000 nights before, calm, careful, practiced. I wanted to believe there was an explanation that would save me from knowing what I already knew. But men my age understand something younger men do not. When the truth finally arrives, it does not need to kick the door open. Sometimes it just stands there quietly, holding your name in its hands. Rachel Turner had a gift for looking flawless in rooms where everyone else looked like they were trying too hard. I saw it the next evening at the Henderson pre-launch reception, held on the top floor of a hotel in uptown Charlotte where the windows showed the city lights spread out like jewelry on black velvet. She wore a cream blazer, small pearl earrings, and the kind of smile that made strangers lean closer. People moved around her with wine glasses and name tags, laughing at the right volume, saying things like market strategy and client confidence as if those words meant anything after midnight. Rachel belonged there, or at least she knew how to make people believe she did. I stood near the edge of the room with a glass of club soda in my hand, watching my wife work the crowd like a woman auditioning for a life that did not include me. She touched elbows, tilted her head, remembered names, and made every person feel briefly important. That was her talent. She could make attention feel like affection. For years, I had mistaken that talent for warmth. Evan Brooks arrived 20 minutes late and somehow made it look intentional. Navy suit, silver watch, white smile, easy posture. He crossed the room like a man who expected doors to open before he reached them. Rachel saw him before anyone said his name. I caught it because I was looking for it now, the half-second change in her face, the quick lift in her eyes, the softness she used to save for me when I came home tired and carrying grocery bags in both hands. Evan leaned close when he greeted her, not enough for anyone else to call it inappropriate, just enough for a husband to feel the insult without being able to prove it. That was the cruelest part of public disrespect. It often dressed itself as manners. Rachel waved me over after a few minutes, the way a person remembers they left their purse on a chair. "Michael, you remember Evan," she said. Evan extended his hand, firm and dry. "Security systems, right?" he asked, like he was trying to place a repairman he had once tipped at Christmas. I shook his hand and nodded. "That is right." Rachel gave a small laugh, quick and polished. "Michael makes sure buildings do not fall apart when people forget to lock doors." It sounded harmless. It landed differently. A few people smiled. Evan smiled the most. I looked at Rachel, waiting for the woman I married to notice the edge in her own voice. She did not. She was already turning back toward him, already stepping into their rhythm, already leaving me standing 3 feet away from a conversation happening in another language. Later, near the buffet, I heard her tell a woman from accounting that Evan had saved the Henderson account with pure instinct. Pure instinct. I had spent 14 years learning Rachel's instincts. She picked the booth with the best lighting. She checked mirrors before entering rooms. She deleted old text threads, but never cleared calendar reminders. She said client dinner when she meant do not ask. She said late meeting when she had already changed clothes in the office. And she said Michael is steady when what she really meant was Michael will not move until it is too late. That night, I watched Evan brush a piece of lint from Rachel's sleeve while his wedding ring caught the hotel light. I watched Rachel let him. Then I looked across the room and saw a woman near the elevators, quiet, composed, holding a small black purse with both hands. Evan turned and called her over. "Olivia," he said, cheerful as a man with nothing to hide. "Come meet everyone." She smiled politely, but her eyes moved faster than her mouth. For 1 second, her gaze passed from Evan to Rachel, then to me. It was not suspicion yet. It was the shadow before suspicion. I knew that shadow. I had seen it in my own reflection the night before. The drive home from the hotel took 22 minutes, but it felt longer because Rachel filled the car with silence and perfume. She sat in the passenger seat with her phone face down on her lap, the city lights sliding over her cheek in pale bands, as we headed south on Interstate 77. I kept both hands on the wheel and watched the road. A younger version of me would have asked questions right there. Maybe too many, maybe too fast. Why did Evan touch your sleeve like that? Why did you look at him before you looked at me? Why did your voice change when you introduced me? But 42 teaches a man the difference between needing an answer and needing the right answer. Rachel looked out the window and said, "You were quiet tonight." I almost laughed. Quiet had become the only room left in our marriage where the truth could stand without being interrupted. "A lot to take in," I said. She turned her head just enough for me to see her smile reflected in the glass. "You always overthink these things." There it was again, soft, casual, polished down until disrespect sounded like concern. I nodded and let the tires hum over the pavement. At home, she went upstairs first, heels in one hand, phone already awake in the other. I stayed in the kitchen and poured water I did not want. The house smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and the lilies Rachel bought every Monday because she liked how expensive they looked on the island. I stood there, listening to the upstairs floorboards move above me, and thought about all the little things I had trained myself not to notice. The new perfume, she said, came from a gift bag at work. The gym bag that came home without gym shoes. The blouse in the dry cleaning plastic, even though she claimed the meeting had been casual. The way she stopped leaving her phone on the nightstand and started taking it into the bathroom for 10-minute stretches. Small things. Harmless things if they arrive alone. But lies never arrive alone. They travel in packs. 3 weeks earlier, I had found a parking receipt from a restaurant in Myers Park tucked into the side pocket of her purse when I was looking for my spare truck key. She told me it was a lunch with 2 women from the office. Later, I saw a photo on the company social page from that same day. The 2 women were at a conference in Raleigh. I said nothing. A week after that, Rachel came home just after midnight and said the Henderson team had run late. Her hair smelled like rain, even though Charlotte had been dry all evening. I said nothing then, too. Silence was starting to feel less like weakness and more like a container. You do not pour concrete while it is still moving. You frame it, brace it, and let it harden. That night after the reception, I opened my laptop in the guest room and logged into the home security dashboard. The file from the dining room sat in the cloud backup, untouched, time-stamped, stored in 3 places because that was how I built systems. Redundancy keeps truth alive when people start deleting. I copied it to an encrypted folder, then to an external drive I kept in my work bag. I named the folder Home Maintenance, because the best hiding places are boring. Then I opened our shared calendar. Rachel had added 3 client dinners in the last month. All 3 matched evenings when Evan's firm had no public events, no late meetings, nothing that explained why his name kept appearing in the margins of my life. My chest tightened, not from surprise, but from recognition. I was not discovering a crack anymore. I was mapping the foundation. By 2:16 in the morning, the guest room had become a courtroom that only I knew existed. The laptop sat open on the small desk beside a stack of old Christmas towels Rachel never used but refused to throw away. My external drive blinked with a tiny blue light, steady, patient, almost alive. I played the dining room recording once from beginning to end. Not because I wanted to punish myself, but because facts have to be faced in order. Rachel's voice came through clearer than I expected. The security microphone had done exactly what I designed it to do. It captured tone, pauses, background noise. Every small betrayal people think disappears into the air. "Michael is comfortable," she said in the recording, and Evan laughed softly. "Comfortable is not love," she added. Then the line came again, Sharper the second time because now I knew it was real. I never loved him. He was safe. I paused the file and stared at the wall. Safe. I had built my whole adult life around that word. Safe neighborhood. Safe car. Safe savings account. Safe wife walking through a lit driveway because I checked the bulbs every fall. To me, safe meant loved enough to protect. To Rachel, it had become a cage she could complain about while living inside it. I let the file continue. Evan said, Olivia would never believe this. Rachel answered, of course not. She thinks you are one of the good ones. There are sentences that hurt because they expose a lie, and there are sentences that hurt because they expose the size of it. That one did both. Olivia was not a stranger anymore. She was a person standing unknowingly on the same weak floor I had been standing on. A wife with a polite smile near the hotel elevators, holding her purse with both hands, reading the room faster than anyone gave her credit for. I created a new folder inside home maintenance and named it receipts. Then I began pulling threads. Shared calendar screenshots. Credit card statements. Parking charges. A hotel bar tab Rachel had called a client coffee. A rideshare drop-off 3 blocks from Evan's office on a night she claimed to be at a women's leadership dinner in South Park. Each item by itself was smoke. Together, they were a weather report. I was careful. No guessing. No dramatic labels. No angry notes typed at 3 in the morning that a lawyer could later tell me to delete. Just dates, times, places, and copies. I exported the original audio metadata and saved it beside the file. I sent a copy to a secure cloud account Rachel did not know existed. Then I wrote one line in a plain document. Do not confront until the truth can stand without emotion. By sunrise, the sky outside the guest room window had turned the color of wet concrete. I heard Rachel's alarm go off in our bedroom. I heard her shower start. I heard the ordinary machinery of our life beginning again. Toothbrush, drawer, closet door, coffee maker downstairs. When she walked into the kitchen 20 minutes later, I was already there, dressed for work, pouring coffee into a travel mug. She kissed my cheek, like muscle memory, and said, "Morning." Her perfume was different again. I smiled, because men who finally understand the game do not announce the first move. "Morning," I said. My voice sounded calm. That was when I knew the old Michael was gone. Work did not feel like work that day. It felt like a place to keep my hands busy while the rest of me learned how to breathe around the truth. I drove to a medical office project in Concord, 28 miles north of Charlotte, where my crew was upgrading access control on the rear entrances and replacing 3 outdated camera units near the loading dock. The morning was humid, the kind of North Carolina heat that makes a dress shirt stick before 9. I checked wiring, reviewed the install notes, signed off on 2 panels, and answered questions like my life had not changed shape overnight. That is one thing people misunderstand about betrayal. The world does not pause for it. Traffic lights still turn green. Coffee still gets cold. Clients still ask why camera number 4 is not showing in the app. Around lunch, I sat in my truck with the air conditioner running and opened the folder again. I did not play the recording this time. I looked at the pattern. Rachel's client dinners, Evan's office location, hotel charges, calendar edits made after the fact. The pieces were not screaming. They were lining up. At 1:23 in the afternoon, a new email hit my inbox from Rachel. Subject line, Henderson celebration next Friday. Inside was one sentence. Please try to look engaged. It matters to me. I read it twice, then once more, because sometimes disrespect wears a nice dress and calls itself a request. Please try to look engaged. Not please come with me. Not this is important, and I want you there. Just a reminder to perform the role she still needed me to play. I typed no response. Instead, I searched public records for Evan Brooks, then company pages, charity event photos, property listings, anything open and legal. I found what I needed in less than 10 minutes. Olivia Brooks taught English at a high school in Matthews. She volunteered with a literacy nonprofit. She and Evan owned a gray craftsman house on a quiet street with crepe myrtles near the sidewalk. In every photo I found, Olivia looked composed, not flashy, not hungry for attention. The kind of woman people underestimate because she does not interrupt the room to prove she is smart. I knew better than to contact her too fast. A stranger reaching out with a story like mine sounds unstable unless he brings proof and restraint. So I waited until the next afternoon. I parked 2 blocks from the school after dismissal, not at the entrance, not in a way that would corner anyone. When Olivia came out carrying a canvas tote and a stack of papers against her chest, I stepped onto the sidewalk where she could see me clearly. "Mrs. Brooks," I said, calm and careful. She stopped. Her eyes narrowed. Then recognition flickered. "You are Rachel's husband." I nodded. "Michael Turner." Her hand tightened around the tote strap. "Is something wrong?" That question almost broke me because it was the same question I had been avoiding in my own house for months. I kept my voice low. "Yes, but I am not here to embarrass you." She looked toward the parking lot, then back at me. "Then why are you here?" I held up my phone, not close enough to threaten, just enough for her to understand. "Because I have something that belongs to both of us." Olivia did not move. The late afternoon sun caught the edge of her wedding ring. For a second, she looked like a woman standing at the top of a staircase in the dark, knowing there was one more step than she could see. "What is it?" she asked. I swallowed once and said, "The truth. And I think you deserve to hear it before they decide what story you get told." Olivia did not invite me into the school, and I respected that. We walked to a bench near the teacher's parking lot, far enough from the doors that no student or parent had to wonder why an unfamiliar man was speaking to Mrs. Brooks after class. The afternoon buses were pulling away one by one, yellow sides flashing in the sun, diesel fumes hanging low over the pavement. She sat with her tote on her lap, like a shield. I sat at the other end of the bench, leaving space between us because space matters when someone is about to lose the version of life they woke up believing in. "Before I play anything," I said, "you should know I am not here to make you feel foolish. I am not here because I want revenge through you. I am here because your name is in it." Olivia's face stayed still, but her fingers pressed into the canvas until her knuckles lightened. "My name?" she asked. I nodded and opened the file. For 3 seconds, there was only the faint room tone from my dining room, that soft electronic hush a microphone hears before people remember walls can listen. Then Rachel's voice filled the space between us. "Comfortable is not love." I watched Olivia, not the phone. Her eyes did not blink. Evan's laugh came next, low and familiar enough that her breath caught before the words did. Then Rachel said it again, the line about me being safe, useful, easy. Olivia looked down at her wedding ring. When Evan said, Olivia would never believe this, her lips parted slightly, as if her body had tried to answer before her mind was ready. Rachel answered, "Of course not. She thinks you are one of the good ones." I paused the recording there. The school parking lot had gone quiet except for a groundskeeper's mower somewhere behind the football field. Olivia stared at the phone for a long moment, then looked at me with eyes that were not wet. "Not yet. Play the rest," she said. So I did. They talked about the Henderson account like it was a door they planned to walk through together. They talked about timing, lawyers, money, appearances. They never raised their voices. That was what made it worse. It was not a reckless moment. It was a plan spoken calmly by two people who thought trust made their spouses blind. When the recording ended, Olivia folded her hands on top of her tote and breathed in through her nose, slow and measured. "How long have you known?" she asked. 40 hours, I said. She nodded once, like a teacher marking the first fact on a board. "Do you have more?" I opened the folder without handing her the phone. Calendar screenshots, receipts, rideshare logs, event photos. Not rumors, not guesses, just pieces. Her face changed as she looked, not collapsing, not hardening, but focusing. I had seen that look in clients after a break-in. The moment panic becomes a checklist. "My father used to say," she said quietly, "never make a permanent decision while your hands are shaking." Then she looked at me. Mine are not shaking anymore. I believed her. We agreed on 3 rules before we stood up. No lies. No public scene until we had spoken to attorneys. No using each other to become what they accused us of being. Olivia saved my number under a name that would not draw attention, then sent me her personal email, not the one Evan knew. As she walked toward her car, she stopped and turned back. For the first time since I met her, she smiled. It was small, tired, and sharp around the edges. It was not happiness. It was recognition. Someone had finally turned the lights on. By Monday morning, Olivia and I had stopped being 2 wounded strangers and became something cleaner than friends, witnesses. That word mattered. It kept the line bright. We did not meet in dark restaurants. We did not trade sad confessions after midnight. We built a record. At 8:30, I sat across from a family attorney named Daniel Price in a small office off East Boulevard while a ceiling fan clicked above us like a slow clock. I played the recording, showed him the metadata, the receipts, the calendar edits, and the screenshots. He did not interrupt once. When the file ended, he leaned back, removed his glasses, and said, "You did the right thing by not confronting her first." It was the first sentence in days that felt like oxygen. Across town, Olivia met with her own attorney and sent me one message afterward. Same advice. Document everything. Do not engage. So that became the rule. Rachel continued living beside me like a woman rehearsing an exit speech in her head. She texted more, smiled less, took calls in the garage, in the driveway, on walks around the block she had never cared about before. Evan did the same to Olivia, only worse because he still thought his wife was too kind to question the shape of a lie. Kindness is not blindness. That was his mistake. Olivia began sending pieces from her side. A credit card charge at a boutique hotel bar on a night. Evan claimed to be stuck in Atlanta. A forwarded email he had forgotten to delete from the family desktop. A printed itinerary with one version for Olivia and another hidden in his work account. Each piece slid into the folder like another brick in a wall they could not climb. By Wednesday, we had enough for attorneys. By Thursday, we had enough for employers. By Friday, we had something neither Rachel nor Evan expected: timing. The Henderson celebration was scheduled for 7 that evening at the same uptown hotel. Only this time, it was not a pre-launch reception. It was the victory lap. Rachel had spent the week talking about it like the room had already crowned her. She wanted me there in a navy suit. She wanted me quiet, agreeable, useful. Evan was bringing Olivia because appearances mattered in that circle more than truth ever had. At 6:15, Rachel stood in our bedroom mirror adjusting a gold necklace I bought her for our 10th anniversary. "Please do not be weird tonight," she said, without looking at me. I was tying my tie. Define weird. She sighed, the way she did when explaining something to someone she had already dismissed. "Just be supportive. This account changes everything for me." I looked at her reflection. She looked beautiful. That used to soften me. That night, it only reminded me how well a person could decorate a lie. "I know," I said. "It changes everything." She missed the weight in it. People who underestimate you always do. At the hotel, the ballroom glowed with chandeliers and polished glass. Music floated under the noise of executives congratulating one another for work done by people who were not invited. Rachel moved through the room like she owned the air. Evan stood near the bar, laughing too loudly, one hand resting at the small of Olivia's back like a man posing for a photograph nobody had taken. Olivia caught my eye once from across the room. No nod. No signal anyone else would notice. Just stillness. At 8:10, Rachel walked onto the small stage to accept praise for the Henderson account. Evan joined her after his name was called. Applause filled the room. Rachel raised her glass and said, "Some partnerships change. Your life." Evan looked at her a second too long. Olivia looked down at her purse and smiled faintly. I stood near the audio table, beside the hotel technician I had helped earlier when the wireless microphone cut out. He had thanked me and said, "You saved us tonight." He had no idea how right he was. Olivia moved first. That mattered to me, not because I needed her to carry the weight, but because the truth belonged to both of us, and she had earned the right to decide how much of her dignity they were allowed to borrow. She stepped onto the edge of the stage just as the applause faded, calm in a black dress and low heels, her small purse held in front of her with both hands. Evan's smile twitched when he saw her. Rachel's did not move at all, but her eyes sharpened. Olivia looked at the regional director, then at the room, and said, "Before everyone celebrates this partnership, there is something the people in this room should understand about what was built behind it." No one laughed. No one clapped. Corporate rooms know when a sentence has teeth. Evan leaned toward her and whispered, "Olivia, not here." She did not look at him. "Especially here," she said. That was my cue. I nodded to the hotel technician, who thought we were playing a prepared audio clip for the presentation. The ballroom speakers gave a soft click. Then the dining room recording filled the air. Rachel's voice came first, smooth and careless. "Michael is comfortable. Comfortable is not love." A few people shifted in their chairs. Someone near the bar set down a glass too hard. Then Evan's laugh came through, unmistakable. His face changed before the room did. He looked at Rachel, then at Olivia, then toward the audio table where I stood with one hand resting beside the laptop. Rachel went pale under the ballroom lights. The recording continued. I never loved him. He was safe. I did not look away. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because for 14 years I had looked at her with trust. She could survive 10 seconds of truth. Then Evan's voice said, Olivia would never believe this. Rachel answered, Of course not. She thinks you are one of the good ones. That was when Olivia smiled. Small, steady, almost peaceful. It was not a smile of joy. It was the smile of a woman hearing the lock turn open from the inside. The room had gone so quiet I could hear the air conditioning push through the ceiling vents. Rachel stepped off the stage and came toward me fast enough to draw stares, but not fast enough to stop anything. Michael, she said, using the soft version of my name she had not earned that week. I held up one hand, not high, just enough. Your attorney can speak to mine. Her mouth opened, then closed, because people who live by performance struggle when the script disappears. Evan tried to follow Olivia, but she had already handed a sealed envelope to her attorney, who had been sitting 2 tables from the front the entire time. That was the part Rachel missed. The reveal was not revenge. It was service, documentation, notice, consequence. The recording ended, and nobody knew what to do with their hands. The regional director took the microphone away from Rachel without looking at her. Evan's boss asked him to step outside. Olivia walked past me near the exit, paused for half a second, and said quietly, Thank you for not letting them write the ending. I nodded. There was nothing else to say. Outside, the Charlotte night was cool for once, a clean breeze moving between the hotel towers. I loosened my tie and walked to my truck alone. No dramatic final look through the glass. No victory speech. No need to watch Rachel discover what a locked door feels like from the wrong side. The old Michael would have wanted an apology. The man walking across that parking deck only wanted distance, clean paperwork, and a morning where silence did not feel like a warning. I started the engine, and for the first time in years, my own life sounded quiet in the right way.